Zipper rolls out to the right, pitches off to Taylor, and Taylor's to the 20, down to the 15, down to the 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Touchdown, Billy Taylor! Touchdown, Billy Taylor! Billy Taylor scored a touchdown from 21 yards out. The crowd goes berserk. It was November 22nd, 1969. That they came to Barry, Michigan, all dressed in maize and blue. The words were said, the prayers were read, and everybody cried. But when they closed the coffin, there was someone else inside. Oh, they came to Barry, Michigan, but Michigan wasn't dead. And when the game was over, it was someone else instead. 11 Michigan Wolverines put on the gloves of gray, and as the organ played the victors, they laid Woody Hayes away. Under center is Wangler at the 45. He goes back. He's looking for a receiver. He throws downfield to Carter. Who's got it better than us? Nobody!
Welcome to the Michigan Man Podcast on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew, for Wolverine fans from coast to coast. Go Blue and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. On today's Game Day edition, my guest will be beat writer Nick Baumgardner from the Detroit Free Press. Before he joins us, let's get it started with my view from Section 17. That was one long game to watch on Saturday. Penalties, TV timeouts for reviews. It just seemed like it was never going to end. It was a very hard game to watch, especially when we had the ball. We kept trying to run against an 8-man front, never really got the ground game going. What did work, though, and looked pretty darn good, was Shea Patterson in the passing game, especially Donovan Peoples-Jones. The defense just looked plain sloppy. Pass interference calls, giving up the slot and underneath stuff all day, losing outside contain on the pass rush, and not getting off the field on third down. It's hard to believe a 45-20 win can be so frustrating to watch, but it was. There is a lot of work to be done on both sides of the ball. I think everyone agrees with that. This week, Scott Frost and Nebraska visit the Big House for the Big Ten opener. The Huskers are 0-2 and could be without freshman quarterback sensation Adrian Martinez. Scott Frost says he will be a game-time decision. If he doesn't play, the Huskers have some real issues on offense. On defense, Nebraska is pretty solid against the run, but they've been torched through the air by both Colorado and Troy. I would expect Shea Patterson in the passing game should have a big day. And that's what my guest today says too. Beat writer Nick Baumgardner from the Detroit Free Press joins us next here on the Michigan Man on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew. Joining us on our Game Day segment as we take a look back at that SMU win over the weekend and a bit of a look ahead to Saturday with Nebraska is beat writer Nick Baumgardner from the Detroit Free Press. Welcome back, Nick.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Well, as always, after a game like we saw Saturday, you try to see what you take away. Maybe it takes a couple of days to look over the film and see what you think. But I guess my takeaway, Nick, was it's time for Jim to turn Shea Patterson loose a bit, don't you think?
Yes, I mean, there's really, I was just going to say there's really no longer, short, or easy or difficult answer to that. It's pretty simple, I think, in that, you know what you have on this team, I think, a little bit now, and he's your best player. I mean, offensively especially, anyway. So, yeah, I mean, he's averaging like 20-something, I think 21, 22, somewhere in there, attempts a game, and he's had like a 171 quarterback rating, which I think is second in the Big Ten, top 20 nationally. 70% of his passes, everything's accurate. Everything's down the field is accurate. He's handling the ball well. He seems to understand what he's doing. You don't have a great running game. You're probably not ever going to have a great running game. I mean, maybe you could have something adequate. And I think these last 2 weeks, especially last week, maybe showed you some of that you're not going to be able to just bully people. So, yeah, I mean, moving forward, I think you're going to have to do a little bit more of, rather than running to set up the throw, maybe throwing to set up the run. I think you can do a little bit of that. That happens a lot in the NFL these days. So I think he's capable. I think this is the best situation they've had quarterback-wise going into Big Ten play since Harbaugh's been here. And, whether he is ready to do it or not, I guess is only he knows. And these last 2 weeks could have very well been, examples of, hey, I want to try to get some confidence in the offensive line, knowing full well that when Big Ten play starts, I got to really cut loose with this quarterback. Maybe that's what's going to happen. I really don't know that that's not the case. But if that doesn't happen and they go forward and he's still only throwing 17, 18 times a game, then something's really wrong, because that's just out of whack. I mean, he really needs to be the man here, because I think he is. If that makes any sense. He's there, and that's why they wouldn't got him, and it's time to use him.
Jim said after the game at the presser, and I kept a close eye on that offensive line. I have all 3 weeks to see, are we seeing improvement? But, Jim said after the game, hey, we played better, did some nice things in pass protection, and I guess I'm just not seeing it. Nick, what about you?
There was 2 things, I guess, that happened in that one on Saturday, and that, they tried to do a lot what they did in the Western game, which was just line up and hammer somebody. And Western's front was just terrible. I mean, they were overmatched. They weren't any good, and that's probably the worst they'll see all year. SMU's wasn't great, but it wasn't nearly as bad, so they weren't able to just maul them. And so they tried to do that, and they can't. They try to do it some more, and they can't. SMU stacked the line, stacked the box, dares them to throw the ball, which a lot of other teams are going to continue to do, and eventually he does. So in some ways, it reminded me of when they played Central Florida the one year with Scott Frost, who did the exact same thing. It was just like, you're not going to run the ball on us. You're not going to embarrass us on the ground. We're going to stack the line and everything else. So eventually they do adjust, but it also leads to the, okay, if you were really a very good offensive line, it wouldn't have mattered. You would have rooted them out of there and moved the football, and they didn't. And so, to me, whether there's improvement or not, I guess on some level, maybe they're practicing better or more prepared or what have you. But, from a execution standpoint, they sort of are what they are, which leads me back to the old original, point, in that, this has to be an offense that starts and stops and runs through the quarterback. He has to be the one that sets up everything, and he has to be the one that's the person people are planning for. And, I got to think they know that. But there's stubbornness and patience to the running game here. And, we'll see how they handle it going forward.
Well, you're right. I guess stubbornness is a way to put it when you run 41 times and you throw 18 times. And, SMU was loading up the box. But you think you just have to get to a point somewhere where you say, it ain't working. And we've got to either balance the run-pass ratio out, or, as you've mentioned, and as I'm leaning towards now, use the pass game to open up the run.
Right, and that's much more of a modern way of doing it in the pro style. So I mean, I look back to the last year that Harbaugh was with Andrew Luck at Stanford. I think Andrew Luck only threw the ball like 27 times a game, 28, which is not as much as you would think from a guy who was as good as he was in college. But on the flip side of that, they had an amazing offensive line. I mean, an amazing offensive line. So they pounded teams into dust, and Andrew Luck was throwing for like 10 or 11 yards an attempt. So, I mean, everything was great, but they had this awesome offensive line, and it's like, well, why wouldn't you use that? This isn't that. This isn't the case here. They don't have that. They have a quarterback who's certainly more than capable. Maybe he's not Andrew Luck, but in terms of college quarterbacks, he's very capable of making all the throws you need him to do, and he's more mobile and he can do different things. You have an offensive line that I think would be capable if things get loosened up a bit, and if like we said, if Patterson can open up some gaps, and maybe then they can be effective, but not the other way around. It's not going to be something where they set him up. That's just not the case here. So Jim Harbaugh's offenses for all time, forever, have operated in the way we just talked about, where you pound the football and you be stubborn with it. Some people call it stubbornness. He'll call it patience, in that they're going to pound the ball until something pops, and then they're going to start throwing it, and then you're going to be all off balance, and it's going to be out of whack, and they're going to wear you out. This offensive line's not capable of doing it. I mean, I just don't, unless there's something that you and I and everyone else isn't seeing, it's just not there. So it's not a giant adjustment. It's just an adjustment of letting your quarterback be a guy, and then working backward from there. And if they do that, I think they could be really good. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, through the first 3 games, my thought was, well, Jim is trying to, I don't know, instill confidence in the offensive line, or at least see what they can do or what they're capable of. I think what they're not capable of is blocking 8 people in the box. So, right. I think moving forward, after 3 games with all of the offensive brain power that's on this staff, I am sure they have to sit back and say, you know what, we have to put these guys in the best situation that we can moving forward. And maybe that's backing people off of that line by passing. So I do think we're going to see that change in philosophy starting this week.
Yeah, I think if I had to guess, my guess would be is they went into the first game cautious with Shea Patterson, which is normal, and I expected it, because he had never played in a game here. He'd never played with these guys on a real setting. It was at Notre Dame at night. You saw what he could do in practice, but you just didn't know. So I think that they were very careful with him in the first one, and they were very careful with everything in the first one because it was brand new. I totally got that. I understand it. That's just kind of that's the problem you run into when you play a game like that on week 1 with a brand new quarterback,
right,
and new offensive tackles and everything else. But as they go forward here, I think the last 2 weeks, they figured out, okay, this guy can really do a lot. But like you said, Mike, I think it was, let's try to get some confidence elsewhere. We know we can beat these 2 teams no matter what. Let's try to get some confidence elsewhere as we go. And then when we go into Big Ten play, run it properly. And I think that's what you'll see. I don't think it'll be something that's so insane. We're sitting there saying, what are they doing? Because I go back and look. Remember when they played Michigan State last year after O'Korn goes and plays Purdue and he throws the ball well in the second half? They went out there and tried to throw it all over the place in the rainstorm.
Yeah.
So if they're willing to do that in the rainstorm, it leads me to believe that they're willing to let Shea Patterson open some things up a little bit here, and I think that's what we'll see.
I hope so. I think a lot of people hope that. So one thing we know after 3 games is Shea looks pretty darn good, and we need to open it up for him. What we're starting to see now, too, another good thing is Donovan Peoples-Jones looks like a guy who's starting to feel it, Nick. He looks more like that receiver that we thought we were getting. Yeah,
he looks like a different player. I mean, and a lot of it, I think, is probably credit to the accuracy of Shea Patterson and the confidence that Patterson has shown in him, which I think has made him more confident. And then the other part of it, I think you have to just give Donovan credit for working on some of the things that he struggled with last year. And, he is creating more space. He is getting himself open. There have been times where the quarterback's thrown him open, but then you see the play where he makes in the corner of the end zone the other day. And, I mean, it's an SMU defensive back, whatever. Donovan Peoples-Jones isn't making that play against anybody last year. I mean, he got his body turned around. The ball was exactly where it needed to be on that back shoulder. But he goes up and he gets it, and he comes down with both feet. It's a clean catch. It's touchdown. That's just a really good receiver play from a guy who has – his quarterback has total confidence in him, and he's delivering. And that is a great sign for Michigan because he wasn't that guy last year. Nobody was. And we've seen, Nico Collins get behind the defense a few times and make some plays. Now we've seen – Donovan catch touchdowns in several different. He's got 4, and none of them are the same. So he's done it in many different areas. He's been open underneath. He's been open downfield. Grant Perry and Oliver Martin have been steady, and then Zach Gentry got going a little bit, and that's a matchup that Patterson seems to like too. So, but yeah, Peoples-Jones has been extremely improved. He was one guy that I really wanted to see what he was able to do after the offseason. I think having a quarterback that when you're running a route and at the end the ball's going to be there and you're going to have a chance. I mean, I got to think that makes running a route all the way through a little easier, and I think that's what we're seeing on some level. But credit to him because he looks like a different player.
Well, on Saturday we had a couple of injuries. We had the one injury. Higdon he warmed up, didn't play, and then Chris Evans limped off the field late. And I know we're recording on Monday morning, so presser is later today. I wonder if we'll get any kind of an injury update. But have you heard anything about either of those guys, Nick?
No, it didn't seem at the time like what Evans had was anything catastrophic, though he did immediately go into the locker room, so there's cause for concern there. And then Higdon, it was something in the leg. He tried to put weight on it, tried to cut hard in the warm-ups, didn't look good. So no idea. I mean, that's one thing where I don't know, what the extent or whatever. Like you said, Mike, we'll talk to Harbaugh today. But the fact that Higdon warmed up, I guess that's something. It could have been just like not even going to try it at all. So maybe that's something where that's a rest injury where the more rest he gets, the better it'll be. But they'll have to know probably by today or tomorrow, because you can't practice Tuesday. It's really hard to be ready to play Saturday. So we'll see here later today.
And as a result of those injuries, Higdon suiting up and not playing, and then Chris going out late, Drew Wilson saw more carries on Saturday. And I have to tell you, Nick, he's a tough little back, really good in pass protection. For a third back, he's developing into a nice option, isn't he?
Yeah, I think in the pass pro is outstanding. I think he's probably the best they have. And maybe that's a lesson to all the all the young running backs listening, right? It's like the old adage of learn how to long snap, kids, and you'll get a scholarship. Well, apparently learn how to pass protect, and you'll get a scholarship, because nobody seems to be able to do it anymore. But he has been terrific with it. I think that's probably what put him over the top in terms of let's get this guy in the rotation. And then, as you said, his ability to see lanes, make cuts, get free yards when they're there. And I think a lot of the other backs can probably do some of that too, but he seems to be probably the most complete in terms of the backups and the guy they trust the most. And that's why he's in there, and he's played really well. He's been a better pass protector through 2-3 weeks than anything they've had in that role in the past couple of years. So that's a walk-on or scholarship or otherwise. So that's certainly an improvement there, and it looks like they really do trust him, and they probably can do some different things with him out of the backfield too. So nice addition, nice player, and a guy that is trending up for sure.
Well, over on defense, I'm not worried yet, Nick, but there have really been some disturbing trends through the first 3 games. These third down conversions, last year one of the best defenses in college football on third down, and Saturday they gave up some just unbelievable conversions, especially in the second half. Is that cause for concern yet?
I think it is a little bit, because it's the same thing that we saw against Notre Dame. On some level where, Wimbush and those guys were able to get some chunks, to get some plays. The secondary, the secondary has not played to expectation, I don't think, through 3 weeks, which is weird because, Lavert Hill's been tested and beaten a couple times, more than he was a year ago. David Long, not as much, but some of the safeties have been tested and beaten. So it's not like they're giving up, 300 yards a game or something, but I mean, they've been giving up more than I think we expected in those one-on-one situations. And like you said, some of the third downs, it's dependent on matchups or who they have out there. They're rotating and doing a lot of different things. So a little bit of cause for concern, I think. Not anything to panic about, but really more so if they go into Nebraska this week and Adrian Martinez, the freshman quarterback, if he's able to play, he didn't play last week, of course, but it seemed like they were trying to get him ready for this one. If he's able to play, then that presents a lot of the issues that Wimbush gave them in terms of a guy who can get outside the pocket and a guy who can extend a play and beat you on third down by kind of improvising. So he's very talented. He's very athletic, and he can do a lot of different things. So it's going to be different, I think. And as you saw last week when they brought in, I can't remember, William, whatever his name was from SMU, the guy who was a little more mobile, could get outside the pocket and run a little bit more, was a threat to run. That's when they started to have some more problems. So, I mean, that's certainly a cause for concern. And if Nebraska's got their best quarterback here on Saturday, then that would be, a big test, for these guys to see how much they've improved.
Well, another cause for concern right now, it seems, is penalties. And you wonder, is it a lack of discipline? Is it over-exuberance? Whatever it is, you can't beat good teams, especially this Michigan team, when you commit 13 penalties. Heaven forbid, not even close to that. That is an area that really has to get cleaned up now.
Yeah, I mean, they're not good enough. I mean, I don't think they can beat a good team if they commit 5. I mean, they're just not. It's not. You're giving away 50 or 60 yards like that. I mean, let alone, like you said, 132 or whatever it was. No, I mean, it was a problem at Notre Dame. It was a problem against Western that just got overlooked. And it was a problem again yesterday. I mean, they've got like 27 almost 30 penalties for 3 games. I mean, it's just, I think, toward the bottom, if not dead last in the Big Ten. And a lot of defensive pass interference. They've had procedure penalties. They've had delayed games. They've had false starts, late hits, a targeting, 2 targetings now. They've had just about everything. There's really not anything they haven't checked the box off of here. So they've had it all. And, that has to go on the coaching staff. I don't know how else to, that's you got to be more disciplined in what you're doing. I mean, you got to be more under control. Defensively, I think their over-aggressiveness has gotten the better of them a few times. And that's something that they have to be more mindful of course. Because you can argue a targeting penalty until you're blue in the face. But if you put yourself in position to where it's even a question, then argue all you want. The guy's still going to have to miss a half. That's kind of how I look at it. I mean, those things are judgment calls, I suppose, and they're tough calls to make, but you can't hit people in the head. I mean, and that's one of those things that's just like, I know people are like, well, I don't know how it's called. And I'm like, I don't either, but I know you can't hit people in the head. So if you don't hit people in the head, and I know it's probably easier said than done, but that's one of those things that at some point you got to fix that, because now you got to play a half of a Big Ten game without an All-American linebacker because he got hit somebody in the head. And it's just like, you can't do this stuff anymore. So a lot of that stuff has to get fixed. The defensive pass interference, for whatever reason, that has to get fixed because they're calling it big time against Michigan. And maybe that's part of the reason why they've struggled to get off the field. But, yeah, a lot of things to correct there. And I would think focus is probably number 1 on the list.
Well, this week, Big Ten play gets underway for everyone, or for most of the teams in the conference, Nick. And what a disaster of a weekend it was. Embarrassing, wasn't it?
Horrible, yeah. I think for all the times, every year it seems like we do this in the offseason. We're like, oh, the Big Ten's going to be really good this year. They're going to be really good this year. And then they go out and do this in the non-conference and just completely spoil it. So, yeah, I mean, like Wisconsin, BYU, I think, is a solid team. But that's one where if you're a playoff contender, no, that's not something where you blow it home. Northwestern looks terrible all of a sudden. Nebraska, I can't quite figure them out at all because I think they're going through a lot of the things that we just talked about here, where a lot of penalties, turnovers, sloppy offensive line play, but they're nowhere near talented enough to overcome any of that. They have to play like perfect. The bottom of the league is bad anyway. We knew that. Purdue was worse than we thought it would be. So really, I guess Maryland loses. Indiana is probably your only silver lining in the bunch. They're 3-0, playing well, and maybe that'll be a surprise. But other than Ohio State just dump trucking everybody, it looks like Ohio State's not going to have too many problems this year. I would say that's probably my safest conclusion after 3 weeks. I suppose we'll see if that changes.
I guess we have to be a little bit cautious. There's a lot of football to be played yet, but it does look like Ohio State and everyone else after that, doesn't it?
Yeah, Penn State, I suppose, has fixed a little bit of what was ailing them, but I don't think they did it against anybody real after week 1. And, of course, they almost lost to Appalachian State there. So still a lot of question marks for them, too. But Ohio State looks far and away the best team, which isn't a surprise. But more than that, Ohio State looks like Alabama level at the moment. So that's for the Big Ten. That is that would be a concern because they look extremely loaded, and we know Urban Meyer comes back this week. So not a lot going wrong there on the field for Ohio State.
Well, as we've talked about coming up this week with Nebraska coming to town, they're 0-2. Their game with Akron, the opener, was washed out because of the weather. And yes, they've struggled. They've shot themselves in the foot over and over again. And this freshman quarterback, Adrian Martinez, I have just seen bits and pieces of him on video, and they've got to get him healthy because they've got real issues on that depth chart, and they saw that Saturday if he's not ready to go. You mentioned Wimbush and having to defend Wimbush, how difficult that was. He looks like a much more talented player than Wimbush.
Even though he's a freshman, he looks better. Looks like a better version of that. And he totally changes their team. I mean, he changes everything. I shudder to think what they would be going forward without him. I mean, they might not win a game. I mean, he's that good of a talent, and more importantly, he's that good of a fit for what Scott Frost wants to run. So, yeah, he helps everything. I think if you're disciplined up front, of course, and not letting him get outside the pocket or outside the rush lanes and everything else, then you could really limit a lot of that and make him be a guy who kind of has to stand in the static area and make throws. And, of course, that's going to be a true freshman doing that, and that's not going to be good for Nebraska. But what he was able to do against Colorado was extend plays with his feet, get out of the pocket on some of the zone reads. I think he was faster than Colorado thought he was. So he's not going to surprise anybody now, but he certainly seems like the type of player that changes everything for Nebraska's offense because, no offense to the youngster Bunch or Bench came in after him, but he is nowhere near as capable as Martinez. So, yeah, I mean, he looks like a guy who's going to be really good there down the road. How good he'll be throughout the rest of this year, I guess we'll see. It's only been one game, but they certainly need him. And if they have him, I think they've got enough to certainly come in here and give Michigan what they want. If they don't have him, then that's going to be a tough day, I think, for Scott Frost and the boys because they just don't have much else around him. So he's kind of the key to the whole deal if I'm looking at it right now, and we'll see if he plays.
The run defense really has not been that bad so far, but the pass defense, that is another story. And getting back to what we talked about earlier, Nick, if Shea gets turned loose, he should have a lot of success throwing the ball against this secondary Saturday.
Yeah, they've been bad for years back there, and I mean, especially you could even see it late in the Troy game when I was watching before Michigan played. Troy didn't do much through the air, but every time they had like a single receiver situation in a one-on-one set, they would go to it, and it would either be a blatant pass interference penalty because the Nebraska defensive back was completely out of position, or it would be a wide open first down and a critical, drive to kill the clock. So, no, they are not great on the back end. There should be open pockets and open lanes. Michigan should be able to do a lot to get people into spots that Patterson can deliver accurate throws. This is one of those games, especially if your backs are banged up and everything else, considering Nebraska, again, not that bad up front, but really suspect on the back end, I would think that you'd be looking to put the ball up in the air whenever you have an opportunity to, because it could lead to big plays. And like we just said, not sure how much Nebraska can erase big plays, especially with a quarterback who's only played one game, and maybe he's hurt. So that seems like a key to the game to me.
Well, final question for you, Nick, before we let you go. When we were talking in the summer, of course, we hadn't seen the team play, but we knew it was year 4 of the Harbaugh era. Fans, we all know, are very, very frustrated. Saturday, I don't know if you could feel it up in the booth, but in the stands, it just felt like that our fan base is ready to crawl out of their skin watching, especially this offense. I guess what I'm asking is, do you sense right now a growing frustration or a continuing frustration?
Yeah, 100%, because I think that a lot of people were led to believe that for whatever reason, that all the problems that they had last year were just going to go away. And Shea Patterson, as good as he is, was going to come in here and fix all the issues. And that's just not realistic. I mean, that was an 8-5 team last year, and it was an 8-5 team not because of one player. It was an 8-5 team because of a lot of reasons, right? And so some people, I think, are frustrated because they were told something that wasn't true. It's that. And then others are frustrated because it's been a long time and they're just tired of being tired. So, I get both sides of it. And I think that the latter is the bigger issue, where you go out there and it's how many more times are you going to have to hear from a head coach, whether it's Jim Harbaugh, Brady Hoke, or whomever, well, it's coming. The run game's close, or we're getting better every day, or whatever. I mean, how many more times do you have to listen to that before you just sit there and say, okay, well, this is a 8-4, 9-3 football team, and I'm going to go spend something else with my Saturday. I mean, that's just what this is. I mean, the people are getting tired of hearing it's a new team, everything's close, we're getting there, this sort of stuff, and they want to see more. And yeah, I mean, if it goes through the rest of the year and they drop some of these games because they're stubborn or because they can't adjust, people are going to be really upset, and they should be. And that's for Jim Harbaugh to fix, and to understand that people are not going to sit here at this point and listen to, well, we're really close. I mean, it's just not a thing anymore. So, I mean, that's not the deal. You're in year 4, it's time to go. And I think people have every right to be frustrated with that. I've said that from the start of the season. That's totally understandable from my end. And I don't think anyone's been unrealistic with that frustration. Some maybe have. If you thought they were going to go 12-0, I suppose that's on you. But to expect better against better teams, that's really the thing. And people are still looking at that Notre Dame game, especially after Notre Dame struggles with Ball State and Vanderbilt, saying, how is that not a win? And totally valid frustration, and one that Harbaugh and those guys will not be able to fix until they go play Wisconsin, Michigan State, or Penn State. I mean, that's just the reality of it. These next couple of weeks are going to be exactly like this. because they're supposed to beat all these teams. And if you lose to one of them, it's even worse. So that's the tough spot that they're in, but that's why they get paid a fortune, and that's why they're here to do it. So we'll see how they do.
Our guest today, as we've taken a look back at the SMU win and ahead to the Nebraska game on Saturday, is beat writer Nick Baumgardner from the Detroit Free Press. Always a pleasure to have you on the show with us, Nick, and we look forward to our next visit.
Sounds good, Mike. Take care.
Quick Hits is next as we wrap it up for another week here on The Michigan Man on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew.
On Quick Hits today, at Jim's Monday presser, he said Higdon and Evans are working through injuries and their day-to-day. He said he saw some good things from the offensive line, was very impressed with Drew Wilson, thought Shea Patterson was sharp on Saturday, but was concerned with the penalties, especially on defense. Jim said he was also seeking clarification on the targeting call against Cleek Hudson. He didn't like the call and does not understand how that hit could be seen as targeting. There were no other injuries discussed or updated at the Monday presser, and really not a lot of news either. Thanks again to Nick Baumgardner for joining us today. On Thursday's Visitors Edition, our guest will be Ben McLaughlin from the Nebraska radio crew. Ben is the sideline reporter and pre- and post-game host on the Husker radio network. If there are any injury updates, we'll share those, check the weather forecast, and share some interesting game day facts about the Big Ten opener with the Huskers. That will do it for our Game Day show this week. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Have a great Wolverine week, everyone. Don't forget to join us again on Thursday for our Visitors Edition, when our guest will be Husker radio sideline reporter Ben McLaughlin. So until we meet again, take care, and as always, go blue.
Thanks for joining us today on The Michigan Man, here on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew. Our listener lines are open 24/7 for your calls at 313-263-4842. That's 313-263-4842. Or email us at themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. That's themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. The Michigan Man Podcast is produced at the studios of Robin Lynn Productions, Allen Park, Michigan, and is not affiliated with the University of Michigan. Go Blue!